warm welcome from the NAACP, Roy Wilkins, Mid-Manhattan Branch. Join us for a presentation from the Criminal Justice Committee. Getting justice for all.
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming this evening to the first part of our criminal justice series, Getting Justice for All. Tonight's program will be about careers within the criminal justice and the court system. So we have a roster of wonderful people representing different organizations within criminal justice and the court system who are going to explain to you about the different career opportunities, the education, the skills, and the background to obtain these jobs. First, I'd like to thank our co-sponsors for tonight's event. Along with the NAACP, we have the Metropolitan Black Bar Association, of which I'm an executive director for. We also have Neighborhood Defenders Service, who are panel speakers tonight as well. We have the Harlem Congregation of Community Services, HCCI, Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer, Assembly Member Keith Wright, and Councilwoman Annette Dickens. These are all our co-sponsors for tonight's event. Currently, flyers were passed out. The second part to tonight's program are tours of criminal court as well as family court. So the flyers that have been passed out to you tonight already, they have a schedule of the tours. Alicia, who's my co-chair, Alicia Barksdale, she's going to pass out a sign-up sheet where you then be able to sign up for the tours for those dates that are already listed on the flyers that you received. I apologize for the color distortion on the flyers. I was trying to make them fancy and it ended up not working out. In the event that you are unable to sign up tonight, which I hope you do, but in case you don't, I did provide my email address, so that way you can email me with the date and the location on the flyer that you already have. And I also have to apologize that I have to leave early because I have a scheduling conflict that I could not get out of. However, I have Alicia Barksdale, my co-chair, as well as the Honorable Frank Perry, who are going to assist me tonight. So we'll get our program.
Good evening again, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Great.
For once, we can say in a crowd, it's good to be a lawyer. It's good to work in the court system, because as you well know, lots of times people enter and encounter the court system. When you do that, it's on the worst day of your life. You don't want to be there. You want to be any place else but where you are. But tonight we have an array of spectacular people who are going to convey to you what they do, why they do it, how they got there, and opportunities available for you. These people have extraordinary backgrounds, but we're not going to read anybody's resumes because that would take up too much time, but we're going to have each of them introduce themselves. You guys have got 5 minutes, because at the very end, we are going to have you ask questions. I would be remiss if I did not recognize first the Honorable Troy Weber of the Appellate Division, First Department. She's going to commence this evening just to tell us about what it is to be an appellate division judge. That's really hard to do. You have to be appointed. You're not just elected. You're appointed by the governor after a large screening process. So we're very happy that Justice Weber is here with us this evening. So we're going to ask each of you, after Justice Weber, just to stand up and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, why you do it, and then we'll open it up for questions from everybody. Thank you so much.
So my name is Troy K. Weber, and I am a Justice of the Appellate Division, First Department. So I was elected to the bench in 1994 as a civil court judge. So I've been a judge now for almost 22 years. I know that because I was pregnant and my daughter's 21. So she will be 22, so that's how I know it. Otherwise, I would forget. So anyhow, I unfortunately, I was a prosecutor also in Mr. Morgenthal's office here in Manhattan. So I was an assistant district attorney for a number of years. I was a court attorney, also working for another judge. I worked for Corporation Counsel. I also worked for the Attorney General's office. I have sat primarily on the criminal side. I do apologize. So I've handled criminal cases for the majority of my career. Homicides is what I was doing for the past couple of years. I was appointed by Governor Cuomo a couple of months ago, in February actually, thank you, to the Appellate Division First Department. And so what we do in the Appellate Division First Department, we have a bench of approximately 5 judges. We hear appeals that come from all of the courts here in Manhattan as well as the Bronx. So anytime there's an appeal of any issue whatsoever coming from one of the courts, again in Manhattan or in the Bronx, we sit as a panel, 5 judges, and we hear the appeal. So those of you who want to become lawyers or what have you, I'm sure you know, and it'll be discussed. You have to go to law school for 3 years, complete law school, take the bar, and then you have to be admitted to the bar. In order to be a judge here in New York State, as I said, I was elected, and so in order to be elected as a judge, you have to be admitted to the bar for 10 years. And so after you are admitted to the bar for 10 years, then you are either elected by you good people who vote for me, or by, if you're appointed by the governor or by the mayor. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Juan. I was asked to speak here by Ms. Barksdale. Thank you. I work at a law firm in New York City, downtown. We do civil rights, matrimonial, criminal defense, immigration work, a lot of community work, like a lot of canvassing and whatnot. And as a paralegal, I'm probably not an attorney here on the panel, but as a paralegal, I think most of them would say that we are the backbone, or at least we do a lot of the grunt work for the attorneys. So the typing, the legal research, the organizing and whatnot, they might be the brains, but we probably are the brawn. But the reason why I became a paralegal is because I wanted to get my foot in the door and see if this was something I wanted to do, if legal work was something I wanted to pursue. I am getting my feet wet. I applied to law school, so I'm on my way there to do my 3 years at law school, and it's really eye-opening to see the amount of work and the amount of change an attorney can do with just just with their writing and what they do and what they file and their court appearances and how many lives they can change. So it's hard not to want to be an attorney. It's hard not to want to have that influence and to be that kind of effect in your community. So as a paralegal, and just getting to view it from my perspective makes it all the more worthwhile to become an attorney. And so it's very difficult to be a paralegal. There's a lot of stress involved. There's not a lot of recognition involved. There's a lot of the praise goes to the attorney. Luckily for me, in case my boss is watching this, or he does deflect a lot of attention towards me, so that's good. I do feel appreciated where I do work, but I don't know what it's like for other paralegals, but I'm sure that they would agree with what I said earlier. But yeah, if you want to become a lawyer, which I do, I think becoming a paralegal is a great first step to doing that, and getting your feet wet, and then eventually going from there, pursuing that route.
Great.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sharon Goodwin. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for New York City Department of Probation. I've been with probation for 29 years. I started as an intern and worked my way up. I love probation. As you see, 29 years, I'm still there, I'm smiling. And one of the things that I love about probation is that we get an opportunity to change people's lives. And I get an opportunity not to only change the lives of the people who have made a mistake, I get a chance to change the lives of my staff. right? Because I'm responsible for hiring and bringing them up the ladder. So it's been a very rewarding job. We get an opportunity to provide services, resources, and opportunity. I love exactly what I do. And to be a probation officer, you have to have a master's degree with 6 months casework experience or a bachelor's degree with 2 years casework experience. There are times in the city when we're understaffed and we need to hire, we can hire probation officers training, and all you need is a college degree. And you get your 2 years experience while you're on the job. In probation, we do so much different work. We do investigations as well as supervision. So there's a lot of opportunity there for people to move around, to grow, and to expand their horizons, as well as there's adult court, which I'm over, and then there's juvenile court. So there's different opportunities. Also, if you're interested in working at probation, you can always look at our website. It's newyorkcity.gov. You look at probation, you go under resource opportunities, and you'll be able to look at what we have. Our job is civil service, but there are times when we can hire and you can come in before taking the civil service exam. That's why I always tell people to check our website, because we're always hiring, and for the most part, test comes way in between. So you can get on board before taking the exam, getting that experience, and then joining us at probation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wayne McKenzie, and I'm the General Counsel or Chief Attorney for the Department of Probation. And so besides keeping Sharon out of jail, along with the Commissioner, I'm responsible for all of the legal business of the agency. And I'm also very involved in whether it's advocacy, whether it's legislative work. So, for example, Jennifer, I helped work on part of that executive order for Ban the Box. And more importantly, since we're a law enforcement agency, we're actually exempt from Ban the Box. And I actually, along with the Commissioner, advocated, and we voluntarily decided to follow it for human services contracts in terms of hiring anyone who is not going into a peace officer series. And we're so serious about it that when individuals apply and they're going to be hired, and now you have to review their criminal history, I personally review every single one. And in the past 2 years, there have been only 2 people that I've rejected. So I'm also a former prosecutor. I was a prosecutor in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, where I first met, and I don't know if I groomed you or I was groomed by you yesterday.
He gave me my first job in the district attorney's office while I was still a law student. He came out and he encouraged me to pursue my legal career, and so thank you, proof that organizations such as NAACP.
I think you made me look like a genius. And so I spent about 15 years in the district attorney's office, and during my time, yeah, I've handled a lot of cases. I've prosecuted homicides, gang homicides as Deputy Chief of Crimes Against Children. I prosecuted homicides involving children. I was a Deputy Chief of Domestic Violence, so I've done a whole lot. And one of the things, when I talk about why I chose to be a prosecutor as an African American man who grew up in Brooklyn, my family's from the Caribbean, was I knew about the unfairness of the system. And for me, when I think about the community that I serve, I just don't think about the person on the other side of that table who looks just like me. I think about the victims. I think about who needs to be on our juries. And so when it comes to making those very difficult decisions involving my community, I want a seat at the table being part of that decision-making process. The other thing I've actually been involved in is for 6 years, I was the founding director of the Prosecution and Racial Justice Program at the Vera Institute of Justice, which is a criminal justice think tank. And there, I actually spent 6 years working with prosecutors across the United States around issues of biased decision-making in prosecutor offices and working with them on how to identify when they're making racially biased decision-making and putting in place actually systems to try to avoid that decision-making. And so my career as an attorney has been extremely rewarding. I guess the only thing I'll add is I didn't start out wanting to be a lawyer. I have an undergrad degree in biology. My graduate degree was in microbiology. And I was being forced on my way to medical school by my parents. And so I sort of share that to say sometimes you may not know what you want to do initially, but what I did know was I wanted to help people, and I wanted to help my people. And so I think that's it. Thank you.
I'm going to try to project. I'm a little stuffed up, but my name is Ayana Surratt, and I'm an assistant district attorney at the Manhattan DA's office. In September, it'll be the start of my 13th year. I currently am in the Violent Criminal Enterprises unit, where we focus on long-term investigations targeting street gangs. Gangs responsible for homicides and shootings that plague our neighborhoods. When I first started in the office, I was assigned to a trial bureau that handles, all different street crimes. I then moved to white-collar crime in our major economic crimes bureau. So in that bureau, I was focused on securities fraud cases, mortgage fraud cases, anti-money laundering cases. And then after that, I moved to our office's crime strategies unit. Now, in the crime strategies unit, I had the opportunity to fully engage in the community. In crime strategies, under DA Vance, when he took office, divided Manhattan up into 5 different areas. And he assigned senior ADAs to each of those areas. And so it was your responsibility to know everything there is to know about that community. So we set up stakeholders group. We would go to resident association meetings. We would go to the local community board meetings. We would go to precinct council meetings, all under the philosophy of intelligence-driven prosecution. Because the idea is a crime prevented is better than one prosecuted. And so it was learning new ways to engage the community, and an umbrella of that is our community partnerships unit. So the crime strategies unit and the community partnerships unit worked very closely with one another. One of the things that we did, like in the 2-8 precinct, we saw that there was a spike in shootings and robberies, like gunpoint robberies, knife point robberies, within a particular demographic. It was young African men. So how do we address that? I came up with a presentation, and we targeted the schools, the high schools and the junior high schools in that community, and we gave very tailored gang awareness presentations, saying, we understand that this might be cool, but decisions that you make as young people, and you're prone to be impulsive, but the decisions that you make have consequences. And showing the young people what a decision to pick up a gun and to rob someone at gunpoint, what it can do. the cycle that you get caught in. And so that's one of the ways in which, as prosecutors, we engage the community. It's about educating people and letting you know that there are consequences for certain actions. And getting involved in the criminal justice system has lifelong consequences. So that was one opportunity. Now, as part of that, I have flyers here that talk a little bit about some of the work that can be done at the DA's office, because you don't only have to be a prosecutor to be a part of the Manhattan DA's office. You know, everyone in our community partnerships unit, they're community coordinators, they attend different meetings, they plan organized functions to engage constituents, to engage people in the community. You're not required to go to law school for that, and you don't have to be an attorney. But more specifically for the young people, we have a series of internship programs that also serve as pipeline for ADA positions. So I'm the attorney in charge for the college internship program, and I can say that some of the young people that were hired as interns are now working as paralegals. So there are those opportunities. We also have high school internship programs, and the only requirement for the high school internship program is that you be a resident of Manhattan. But for the law school internship program and the college internship program, all you need to do is apply, and there are more particulars in the flyers. My time's up. Any other questions, you can catch me after.
Hello everyone, my name is Omar Salim. I'm an attorney at the Neighborhood Defendant Service of Harlem. We represent everyone north of 96th Street and above in Manhattan County, or New York County, excuse me. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I'm actually from Florida, and I came up here for my job to get here to be an attorney. My dad's actually a member of NAACP down in Central Florida, and it's actually kind of funny to see how this is kind of what I used to go to when I was in high school, and when I used to go to when I was in middle school, and I would be mad that I would go. But now it's kind of funny to see the same thing happening now. Why I became a public defender is not going to be summed up in 5 minutes.
Okay,
I'll give you a quick answer of it. When I go in court every day, I'm in court pretty much Monday through Friday. I handle criminal cases, mostly at this time misdemeanors. I've only been an attorney for about 2 years. I'm kind of a baby compared to everyone up here. But when I see a lot of the people, my clients, the people I represent, they look like me. They're younger than me. And it hurts sometimes to actually see that, where someone might get, be caught with some joint smoking out on the street, or an aggressive police officer might pat him down and find something on him. And it's not, the situation where they have a gun that's usually the most damaging, but it's the ones where, you have the third time you get caught with a joint, or the time where, you might have just held something for your friend because they were going home and you had something, there was maybe a little bit of something else on you. And that's where, that first hit on your criminal record where you get the misdemeanor, you miss out on so many opportunities there, but a lot of people usually think that missing out on those, you have to kind of rely on worse means to make money, worse means to make your family whole, and that's when you get caught with the felonies and all that. So why I become a public defender is, my grandmother told me you don't get a second chance all the time, and I think what I'm there to do sometimes is to help someone get that second chance. It might be, do 3 days community service, or pay a small fine, or try to pay a small fine. Do what you can to prevent you from getting that criminal record. But that's kind of why I do it every day. And it's tough. We see how the system works with people, especially people of color. Be it black, Latino, whatever, especially black. There's a tale of two systems, and we saw it recently with Officer Liang, who killed Kai Gurley.
Oh, yes.
He got no jail time, 800 hours of community service. Not a single person in my office would have that same luxury.
Right.
Yeah, probation, 5 years probation, and there's a lot of reasons why. Maybe the fact that he had the attorneys and all that. But what we do and what I do in my office is just try to make sure that do everything I can to make sure that we're on even footing. So that's not two systems but one. like I said, I'm from Florida. I went to school down there, and I went to law school down in Atlanta at Emory University. I went straight through, so I graduated high school, went to college, graduated college. I basically was in school for the first 25 years of my life. Which I think at times made me kind of see the world for a different place than what it really is. Moving up here in New York and seeing just how this, you go up 20 blocks down there, it's completely different if you go 20 blocks up here. And I think you need to see people don't really realize that. How, the people who got disenfranchised the other day weren't the people who were in here. That's something that happens. And what my office, Neighborhood Defender Service of Harlem, does is that we are based on 125th and Lenox. I don't know if the CVS, the Planet Fitness, all that on Lenox Avenue, the 10th floor, it's the brick office building. We're there, and we do, if you have, let's say, if someone a police officer calls them, or, they have a situation where, an officer's looking for them, they can come into our office any day until 5:45 during the week and talk to an attorney and someone else who will set up and talk to the officers and make sure that anything they say will be protected by the Constitution, meaning that we'll sit there and help them, and the police officers can't talk to them without talking to us first, and that's in a lot of ways a huge help to everyone there, because sometimes a lot of what you say you might know, like, officers have not the cleanest tactic to actually help out. What they'll do is they'll say, hey, if you talk now, we'll make it easier for you in the future. That's not true at all. And what they'll do is, you say something, you can get kind of caught up into it. And I think the best thing to do is to have an attorney there who knows what he's doing, who knows what they're doing, and just guide you along the way. We go from not only to pre-arrest, but all the way to trial. So when you get arrested and you have your first day in court, your arraignment and your bail hearing, we're there too. We'll speak on your behalf. If you surrendered with us, we know your whole life story before you even step foot in that door. If you come to us before, and if we meet you in your first day and you're in jail, if you got arrested, we'll do what we can to help you out there as well. Our office does holistic defense, meaning that we go through pretty much every aspect of there's a criminal case. We'll reach out to complaining witnesses. To speak to witnesses we have. We'll go to your apartment building and talk to people and know who you are as a person, so that you're not just some number, you're not some defendant, you're not the accused, but you're who you are. You're Omar, or you're whoever you might be. That's who you are. So that's what our office does, and that's who I am. And again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you.
Everyone, my name is Hannah Khan. I'm also a staff attorney at the Neighborhood Defender Service of Harlem. Omar and I are extremely excited to be here. Like Omar was saying, we are a community-based law office. We started in 1990, and our founders wanted something beyond the traditional model of public defense. So we wanted to provide more for our clients. And in addition to criminal defense services, we also provide housing defense. We have civil attorneys in our office. We have social workers in our office. So if somebody has a drug problem, we believe they shouldn't necessarily have to go to jail for many years because they have a drug problem. We have social workers that meet with them. We're able to act as a liaison and find programming for them and pitch that to the district attorney's office to see if we can find better resolutions for our clients. We also provide immigration services, and so every single case that we get, an immigration attorney looks over that case to make sure that if there's a plea involved, we're taking an immigration-safe plea. We also provide representation for our clients who are in proceedings in immigration court. We also have a thriving family defense practice, and so we have lawyers representing clients in family court where we're trying to keep the family together, and we represent parents, and that's been a really important part of our practice. I became a public defender not thinking that I ever wanted to be one. My mother was arrested when I was 9 years old, and she had a public defender and had a terrible experience. Fast forward, I went through college. I decided that the way to change the system was through education, and I became a teacher. I taught special education in Southeast Washington, D.C., the worst performing school district in this country. And it was through that I started learning about the school to prison pipeline and actually seeing it in practice. And when I went to law school, I thought I wanted to get into education policy because I wanted to change the way that the structures work. As many of us know, going to law school is very, I don't know, it's just very, it's not as glamorous as you think of it. Like, you know, I would grow up watching TV shows and, you know, thinking it was very exciting, and then you go to law school and you're stuck in a library. And so I decided that I missed that human contact. I missed being around people every single day. And that is what I love about my job. I truly believe I have the best job in the legal profession and in the legal field because I get to see people every single day and hear their life stories and fight for them. And unfortunately, many of our clients have never been fought for before, which is heartbreaking. But what Omar and I do, and I think the reason why, even though it's really difficult, it keeps us going, is because it's a very, the law can be very, you know, disengaged, and it can be very much academic. But when you're talking to clients every single day and hearing their life stories and fighting for them in court, it's a very human experience. And so that's why I do what I do. I, like everybody else, went to law school for 3 years. I interned at public defender offices every single summer, even during the school year. And then when I learned about NDS and the work that they're doing, they're one of the few what we call holistic public defender offices in this country, and actually the first holistic public defender office to start in this country. And then from that you have Bronx Defenders, you have Brooklyn Defender Services. So we are really pioneers, and it started in Harlem. And so we invite you to come and visit us. We're at 125th and Lenox on the 10th floor. We do have pre-arrest services if you ever have any issues with your housing, if you have issues with your kids, ACS calls you and says that they want to set up a meeting. If you have a detective that is on the phone with you or shows up at your door, come and see us and talk to us, and we can work together to try to help you.
Everybody, just 1 second. I have a rap I put together. I'm going to use it. It's not kidding. Who's trying to get the plug? What's the name of the organization on 10th floor?
The Neighborhood Defender Service of Harlem. We have flyers up here as well. And we have cards.
I have business cards. We both
if you run out, you can always...
We're going to have questions and just when everybody's done.
All right, last but not least. Hi, everybody. Hi again. So I apparently the only one that made notes because I didn't want to miss a beat, right? So again, my name is Gail Damiano. I was invited by Kim, who I think already left, so unfortunately. But it's nice to meet you all. I wanted to, just before I get going, just let you know a little bit about my name, who I am and my background. So again, my name is Gail Damiano. I work in the court reporting field, and I've been in that universe for about 11 years now. I became a court reporting student in 2004, and that was in Chicago, and shortly after I was a student, I realized I wanted to know more about the business. So I found a job part-time at a court reporting company in Chicago. So in 2009, which is 5 years after I started school, and yes, court reporting is a 2-year program, but I decided to work. So one of these things that happen when you put yourself through school and work yourself through school, sometimes it goes a little bit longer than you anticipated. So 5 years after I started, I sat for what's called a Certified Shorthand Court Reporting exam in Chicago, and I didn't pass. I was totally devastated. I cried for about 6 hours. I don't know, way too long. But I kept working at the court reporting company part-time and learning more and more about the profession every day, and it's very interesting. So I said, I can sit for the exam again another time. You pay the money, you sit for the exam, you pass it. That was my plan, but as we all know, plans kind of sometimes fly out the window, so that didn't really happen. I ended up moving to Florida, shortly after my car was stolen. And what was in my car but my steno machine? All my equipment. So I kind of said, this is a sign. So I just kept going. What I ended up doing is I worked for a company now, the same company I've worked for, it's been over 10 years, it's Veritext. I have been doing many different things for the company. So what I started as a receptionist, I then started doing scheduling, and what I did was I scheduled all the court reporters that had to go around the city. And I'll explain what a court reporter is very shortly. So now what I do is I am an account executive, which is like a fancy name for a salesperson. So that's what I do, and I manage over a couple hundred accounts in the New York City area and throughout the country. So, and I do actually love my job, and I get to be the resource for people for anything court reporting. And court reporters come to me too for a lot of things. So what is a court reporter? I know you're dying to know. A court reporter is what we call the guardian of the record. Okay, so the court reporter is also known as a stenographer. Okay, what they use is what is called a steno machine. So they write everything that's being said on a little machine as fast as it's being said, hopefully. And they show up at things like trials, hearings, depositions, meetings, you name it. Anything where you need a record, something like this even, if they wanted to put it on the record, you might set up a court reporter to take down everything that people are saying. So a little tiny bit of history. There's a machine called the stenotype machine that was invented way back in 1877. Ever since then, it's been morphing and morphing, and you know, to meet the needs of the court reporters and technology and things like that as the years go by. So reporters, when they used to take down the record, they would have a machine where they kind of put in a little ticker tape kind of paper, and they would punch the keys, and an arm, like an old school typewriter arm, would go bam, 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 you know, and do. Some of us know what a typewriter is. But at the end of the day, the reporter would take all the paper that they had after the hearing, and they would have this stack of all these notes that were in another language, which was steno. So they would go home and transcribe what they wrote from steno into English to create a transcript for the jury and the attorneys and you know, or the panel, whoever ordered the transcript. So now what court reporters do is they use wireless steno machines that write to an SD card or a thumb drive. Okay, so it's all digital. And while they're writing, that simultaneously outputs from their court reporting machine to their computer, which has what's called computer-aided transcription, which is a godsend for court reporters. Okay, so what it does is the computer-aided transcription is the software, so it allows each individual court reporter to input his or her dictionary into their computer. What do I mean by dictionary? A dictionary is it kind of leads me to the schooling part. So what does court reporting school actually consist of? So you start with the basics. I'm just going to give you very basic stuff. I kind of hinted out a couple of things to you guys. So you have a little pamphlet with some pictures I put on, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about as I go. The steno machine keyboard, there's 24 keys on it. It's not a full keyboard like you think, computer keyboard. On the picture you can see what I'm saying. So what we have is we call the initial side of the keyboard, which is essentially the left-hand side, and the final side of the keyboard is the right-hand side. And it just basically, in basic terms, means the beginning of a word or the end of a word. So when we write as stenographers or court reporters, we write in phonetics. So I'm not typing out letters, I'm typing sounds. So if your name is Harriet, I type Harriet in 2 strokes instead of Harritt. So it's fast, and there's a lot more involved down the line, but I'll keep it very basic for you guys. So that's the idea. Yeah, okay, I'm almost done. So okay, I'm going to skip forward. So people ask me how fast do I type. So I actually measure how fast I type on a regular keyboard. I'm at 108 words a minute. But court reporters have to sit for an exam called the Registered Professional Reporter Exam. This is given by the National Court Reporting Association. You have to pass at 225 words a minute. Wow. I've probably been speaking right now about 280 words a minute. Yeah. Just so you know, I'm trying to get through this. Okay, so there's 3 legs of the test. You have to pass Q&A, which is testimony, like questioner, answer, question, answer. 225 words a minute. You also have to do a jury charge, which is when the judge reads to the jury, before they go to deliberate. You also have to do a literary at 180 words a minute, which can be anything, like somebody typing what I'm saying right now, which is, ridiculous. So, and you have to be 95% accurate or better. So that's, right, I see that's exactly right. So, and I said I was in for 5 years, right? So, I just want to give you a quick taste. So this is the interactive part I wanted. I gave you guys the little folder. If you open the folder, there's a blank piece of paper, just so you can kind of get an idea, just a little idea of what it might be like. I'm trying to get the speaker over here. Hopefully it works. I don't know if this is going to work out. I'm going to play just a couple of seconds of this woman speaking at 200 words a minute. And take a pen and just try to keep up with the pen. And just to get your mind into like what like what the concept might be. I know you're writing with a pen.
Yeah, okay. When you do shorthand.
You guys didn't have a pen. This is working. Everybody should have a pen. Okay. Everybody got a pen?
Yeah.
Everybody got a piece of paper? It's only going to be like 5 seconds before your head will explode, I promise. I'm not going to put in much of it. So, this woman is speaking in 200 words a minute, and she's speaking a jury charge. So it's like, again, what the judge said. I want you guys to just kind of get a feel for this. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, please tell me.
Now it becomes my duty to tell you the law that applies to this case.
Just go ahead and write that.
And it is your duty, as I mentioned at the beginning of the trial, to follow the law as I stated to you.
Okay.
Before I tell you the law, however, let me make some general comments about your responsibility as jurors.
Okay, the content was really whatever, but I just wanted to give you an idea how fast 200 words a minute is, and throw you into my world for a second. Okay.
That's, excuse me, it's similar to shorthand.
It's shorthand, but it's on a machine. So it's machine shorthand. Yeah. So it's a new language. I can answer all. We're gonna have questions after she's finished. So yeah. So I just wanted to say wrapping it up. Yeah. I promise I would keep it short. My contact info is on those folders. If you guys have any questions, I did have more about how to get into court reporting school, but come to me if you have any questions. I can send you a list of all the court reporting schools. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, aren't you proud?
Yes.
I don't know if you heard this, but I did not hear one of our speakers say that they got into their profession because they wanted to make money or to make a name for themselves. They got into what they're doing because it seemed like, for most of them, it was a calling. It was something that they felt they needed to do to better their community. So that's what made me feel proud today, to have these people working on our behalf because they feel the need to. I have to acknowledge also Judge Mary Rosado of the Civil Court.
Yes.
Judge Dakota Ramsey, we're so excited for the service that they provide our community and are always happy to see them. So now we just have a few minutes to have some questions. Of course, after they're done, you may approach them and ask specific questions because we want to keep this a little limited because I don't know about you, but I can smell the chicken.
Any questions? Raise your hand. Wow, y'all just really Stand up, please.
I just wanted to know if there's any.
I just
wanted to know if there's anything that you could suggest as a group of people or individually to approach the children that are going into the system now. Anytime you have studies that show, well, if we go to jail when this number of children are 4 years old, by the time they're teenagers or adults, we will have a prison system. And so it's the pipeline that you talk about. What do we do as individuals in a community to really stop this from happening because our gifted and talented are sitting in jail?
I'll take the first stab at that. A lot of times we think that the criminal justice system is the cure to what ails society. And it really isn't. Okay? It's symptomatic of the ills of society. And for me, until we start addressing the disparities in health, the disparities in education, and the disparities in economic opportunities, we're always going to be depending on a system that just masks the symptoms and really is not the cure.
Anybody?
Hi. Okay, so if you know about all of the disparities and all of the disenfranchised grief that our youth have, but people also with mental illness, chemical dependency are going through, what are we going to do to catapult ourselves into the existence where we can help them on the same levels that most of you panel members are coming from? We have a system that's not at large addressing the issue, creating the recidivism rate all over again for our children, unfortunately. So what do we do to go forward to help compel some of these various issues that keep this going on in the pipeline loop?
Well, let me just keep in mind, we are the system. You know, you always say you are part of the system. And, you know, so you have to also help and do things that's going to help individuals. You know, from my point of view, for example, as a sitting judge, you get individuals who are called for jury duty. Not you guys. You don't want to serve on a jury. You know, you come up with an excuse as to why you cannot serve on a jury. I don't agree with the system. I don't like what the system is doing. If you don't want to serve on a jury, you are not going to make an impact. Okay? And so that's always my pet peeve. We are all part of the system. And so what we're all trying to say is we're all trying to make a difference. Me, as an African-American female judge, when I see an African-American male, which in the Bronx, that's all I saw. I think I maybe saw one white defendant in 20-something years. No, two. I saw two. That was it. You know, how do I feel? That could be my child. So what we're saying is hopefully we're bringing something to our respective jobs where we acknowledge you may have an issue. There may have been an issue in terms of your family. There may be an issue in terms of chemical dependency, etc. And so, no, we're not going to say, oh, I'm going to treat you differently, because that would be wrong. But I'm going to consider that, because I recognize that I came from that. I was born in the South Bronx, okay? I went to Cardinal Spellman High School in the Bronx, okay? I went to Catholic school. So I came from the South, when it was the South Bronx, and the South Bronx was burning at the time. Although I didn't know it was burning, but they told me it was burning. You know, so I came from the South Bronx, so I knew what was going on. So I bring that perspective to my job as a judge. And I think everybody on this panel brings their background and a certain perspective to their respective jobs. She has done so much in terms of probation. You have no idea the things that she has done for probationers. You know, we worked together. I would put somebody on probation for supervision. She would come to me, or her probation officers would come to me and say, look, this is going on with this individual. Give him another chance. Look at this, look at that. She's done so much, and I'm so proud of the fact that she's deputy commissioner.
Yes. Because I wanted to speak on that. One of the things that probation that we always say is that we can't do it by ourselves. We need you. So what can we do? What can you do? We need your help, because our children have made bad choices. Anyone can make a bad choice. But when we're looking for people to participate and give their in-kind services to what we want to bring to our clients and introducing them to new things, we have to stop looking at our children and our young adults as the problem. It's about embracing them. And I always tell my staff, one thing is that when they come to us broken, hurt, right? And that's why some of the decisions that they made got them to us. But we have to love them in spite of themselves. And you still got to give them the love until they can start loving themselves back. And all I ask is that our community love them back. And just, you know, talk to them and engage them. It's all about the engagement piece. And we have NEONs, Neighborhood Opportunity Networks, in each borough, right? And we do a lot of different, we have a lot of different resources, Neon Arts, some of y'all may have heard about, Neon Sports, and we have stakeholders, and we're looking for people to be on our stakeholders groups as well, and for you to have a voice and an impact about what happens to our clients. Right. And these are our children, these are our people, I say it's our family. Mm.
Is it any different from actual parole and probation?
Yes, there's a big difference between probation and parole. Probation is before you actually serve any kind of prison, right? Parole is after you serve prison. probation is before. So you may not even done any jail time, or you may have done a little bit of jail time. But for the most part, that's what probation, where before they can actually go deeper into the system.
I also have somebody that wants to answer the question.
Remember, I'm Judge Michaels, and I know I'm not on the panel, but I want to address this question because I sit now where Justice Weber has been sitting, and I see many young people, especially young men of color, who come in front of me who have made a mistake, a big mistake, and we are getting them into programs, various different programs. I sit in the Bronx, but what I can tell you is I'm begging the programs to find mentors for these young men. And I say to them, listen, I know you don't want this white lady sitting on the bench telling you what to do. Okay. So I say to the programs, get a young man of accomplishment who has a time and an energy to spend with these other individuals who are in trouble. They need to have that one-on-one. They need to have that experience of seeing someone who has achieved something, someone who can trust in them and believe in them and teach them that you can get through this. And of course, for all our children, we need to read to our children. We need to spend time with our children. This is how we can both help the children that have already made those missteps, as well as prevent our children from making those missteps by saying, stay away from the other kids when they offer you drugs. Don't go near the kids that you know that are robbing for cell phones, because I'm seeing so much of this. And I know I sit in the Bronx, but it's just over the bridge. It's the same thing happening here, I can tell you. The DA's office will tell you they see the same thing over here. And that's what you can do. You ask the question, you can get out there and mentor a young woman, a young man, show them that there is a way to go that is not necessarily what their peers say, but they have a family, even if their own family may not be as able to support them as we would all like.
And she made, and I just want to say something, and we have 2 questions left, and that's it. As a parent that's been on both sides, that have children and family members that have been arrested, it starts at home. Exactly. It starts at home. Exactly. You know, I have a grandson, thank God, and I'm taking him to meetings, and everywhere I go, you don't do this, you don't do that. And that's where you start. Because when they get to be a problem, you reprimand them. Because I remember I had to go get the switch outside when I was going. So I will reprimand my grandson if he needs to. But it starts at home, and if they get into trouble, you got to nip it in the bud, because we can only help them, but can prevent our children from going to them. And that's what we have to do as parents and the community.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Felder, Public Advocate James' office. How you doing? Hi. I did want to speak a little bit to what you were talking about when you mentioned about the children and education from the pipeline. That is very crucial. We have schools in our neighborhoods that are not functioning, and there is no enforcement besides our officer, maybe a few other people. But when we talk about the system doesn't always respond to us, and sort of pivot back to the people and say, well, you know, we need the parents to stand up. That's true. We know that the schools that function have great PTA, but the schools, their mission is to teach. The mission is to educate. But if you're not doing it, you shouldn't have to be forced to do your job because a lot of parents are not inside of the PTA. That's what you're supposed to do anyway. So to answer the question of what we can do, we can actually collectively adopt the school in our area. You know, adopt the family, that's what we do. We actually go out and we actually do this from our office. We know that's not our function, but we do it anyway. So I'm just suggesting that just like you have block associations, you have, especially the retired folks, some of our educators, you make sure that you're a part of that, especially those schools that are community schools, and you make sure that they're teaching, you make sure that those things are functioning, and these nice judges, they send these people to these programs, they're not even functioning in the capacity that they look like they're functioning when it's written on paper. So we have to kind of like make sure that it's actually working. Because there's a lot of services out there, but are the services working, especially in the areas of people of color? So that's what we can do. Thank you.
So on that note, we're going to close this out. I'm going to ask all of our esteemed jurists and our committee members to come behind here while our panel stays seated for a photo. Just bring the chairs in a little more closer. And all of our jurists that are in the room. come forward, those who stay. And matter of fact, they're all members of the Mid-Manhattan branch, life, civil life members, some of them are fully paid. But I expect all of our panelists to join the Mid-Manhattan branch. Give them a round of applause and join the branch. Frank, you want to say something?
Thank you all for coming. Thank our panelists. And please sign up for the tours.
Hold it. We're not done yet. Everybody, bear with me.
Please sign up for the tours. We have tours and people available to give you tours of their respective offices and courthouses. And please engage our panelists who've taken time out of their busy schedules to come and be with us. And our panelists, we welcome you to the Mid-Manhattan NAACP. We expect your dues.
All right, photo. Everybody look at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Come on over there. Look over here. Over here, not talking. Hey. Okay. Oh, look. Over here. Nice smile, everyone. Great. That's great. Again. Last one. Perfecto. Thank you. Now, before anybody leaves, this is a very important announcement. May 13th is our spring soiree. Tickets are here. Please see Claire Fieldable immediately because it's also a membership drive. So for $95, you get a full meal, a cocktail hour, full bar for the entire evening, and a 1-year membership. And that's the bargain. Now's your time to join and buy your tickets tonight so we all have fun and no speeches that they're going to do. Thank you.